Welcome to the FNO InsurTech podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsurTech. We talk about how technology and innovation are affecting and driving change in the industry. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world, welcome to another edition of FNO InsurTech Stateside Edition. That's right, Lee and I are back from London. Lee, you had a day in London.
I did.
Tell us about that. Tell us about your day real quick.
I did. I had a day.
So we were in London. Wait, time out. We were in London. Lee and I went to London to visit with the London market, people in the London market, in and around Lloyd's, and had a great time and met a lot of people and very good meetings. And then I had to leave. And Mr. Boyd,
you left pretty quick. You left. You had a shorter trip than I did.
Well, like I just said, didn't I just say that?
Yeah, but I mean, it was like pretty quick for a
long
travel.
Mine was all business, and yours was not exactly all business.
Well, I wasn't
there
able
was
to
a little
get
pleasure in there, Lee.
I stayed a day longer.
Yeah,
no meetings
got some
happened.
Pleasure in there.
No meetings happened, and I was able to go do a little sightseeing on that Thursday. Which is weird because you're going sightseeing and you have until like 2:00 in the afternoon before the day starts here in Texas. You're just that much ahead. And so it was, I had time to go see maybe a museum or two. I saw some Da Vinci paintings. Thought that was pretty interesting. Saw some World War II items, rooms, and, a few different things. It was a nice day. It was a nice day.
Tell us what the highlight was.
Well, I just did. I think that the Da Vinci was the highlight. I read a book 2 years ago that was the biography of Da Vinci. And in it had all of the paintings. And in America, we only have one Da Vinci painting, and it's at the National Portrait Museum in D.C. So I've only seen one. And I walk into this museum in London thinking I'm going to see all this beautiful artwork, and I see a sign that says "This way to Da Vinci." And I was blessed with getting to see two, not one, but two of his paintings. And it was very exciting. That would be a highlight.
That's wonderful. But you logged 30,000 steps that day.
It was a lot of steps. But
that's a lot in a day.
Well, we weren't staying. We were staying in the city of London, which to people who aren't from London, that's not the city of London. That's the city of London. See, we were in the city of London, and I was sightseeing in the city of London. And so they're not by each other. They're two different things.
Two different things.
Yeah. I was in the proper city of London, which is a mile by mile, square mile financial insurance district, but just over the way. So I might have walked over there early in the morning and got a lot of steps. Let's just say I was a little sore that evening.
Well, speaking of the other side of the pond, the European side, we have a guest today who you are not going to be here to record.
I am not.
We have a guest who's coming to us from Zurich, Switzerland. And the interesting thing about this is that he's not from Zurich. He's Greek by birth.
He's Greek? Okay.
Greek by birth. An incredibly smart guy whose name is Danny. He's the CEO and co-founder of REOR20. I said that right, too. We practiced this.
That's good.
I felt bad that I couldn't say his last name. He has a last name that is...
I can't even attempt to say his last name. It would be bad.
I'll spell it.
Okay.
CHATZIPRODROMOU. In case you're wondering. And Danny's been around for a long time. He has an insurance background and went out and saw an opportunity to honestly, really, God's honest, apply AI to flood and the flood risk.
That's great.
He's been through the Lloyd's Lab incubator, and they won the award from Lloyd's Lab. They won the award as the top European InsurTech in this past year. And they've also received a rare and substantial investment from Lloyd's of London in their product, which, as you can appreciate, to get that kind of validation from an organization like Lloyd's doesn't happen every day. So this is a really very serious, very important innovation that we have on today, talking about building an AI, building and educating and training an AI to do flood work. That's awesome. So far over my head that I can't even begin to impress that upon you. But I want all of our audience to listen to this, because this is an organization, this is a company that's going to make a big splash, no pun intended, and make a lot of noise in the flood market, and who knows where in the long run.
Well, I'm excited. You built this thing up big time.
You should be. You should always listen to the episodes that I do by myself.
I do. And I critique them, and I keep the notes all to myself.
Do you? Do you study them? Do you study those
I only
notes?
Listen to the ones I'm not on.
I just want to know if you study the notes.
Yeah, of course I do.
Okay. Then, without further ado, let's get to our interview with Danny Chatziprodromou, CEO of REOR20. We are here with our special guest, but without Lee Boyd today. Lee is off on a special project and was unable to make this recording. And we have Danny, and I'm going to let Danny say his own last name. Danny, go ahead.
Chatziprodromou. It's a very long Greek name, yes.
It's a long Greek name.
Yeah.
And does anyone ever guess it and say it correctly?
The Greeks.
Okay. Well, then I'm off the hook because I'm not a Greek. Okay. But I'd like to be, so don't get me wrong. And Danny is the founder and CEO of REOR20. How did I do?
That was perfect.
So maybe I am Greek. Actually, that's Latin, right?
Yes.
Okay. Explain the name to us. Tell us that story.
So REOR is a Latin word meaning think and compute. And the 20 at the end of the name of the company is coming from the percentage 20, which is the URL encoding for the space, the key space, the space key. So REOR20 means think and compute in the white space.
Wow.
As we discussed briefly before, a lot of wine was involved in in finding the name, let's say. It was very creative.
Well, I mean, what are you? A PhD in computational fluid dynamics or something?
Yes, that is correct.
As a matter of fact?
Yes. Actually, I did my doctorate here in Zurich. That's how I found myself in Zurich. So mechanical engineer by training, master's in aerodynamics, computational aerodynamics. And then my doctorate was on cerebral aneurysm pathology.
Wow.
I was doing computational fluid dynamics, trying to help understand why aneurysms are happening. Post that, I sold my soul to the devil. I did financial mathematics at my postdoc. So, and the golden time of the quants, I became a quant.
You were a quant. Somebody got a hold of you and said, why waste that beautiful brain on trying to save people when we can make money?
Roughly, that was it. Actually, no. All my studies were targeted. Despite the topic of my PhD, I wanted to become, as a kid, I wanted to become a Formula One engineer.
Cool, of course.
Specifically aerodynamics. But after studying half of my life, I was like, oh God, I don't want to run simulations for the rest of my life. And here I am, owning a company, running simulations.
But now we have to ask you the important question. So you're Greek by birth and living in Switzerland. So I'm trying to figure out who's your team in F1.
I used to be a Williams fan.
Okay, can't be a Williams fan anymore, right?
Yes.
Oh no, yes you can. Excuse me.
You can.
Yeah.
I'm not following anymore the Formula One. The reason is when I decided that I don't want to go to that direction, I heard too much, so I stopped following. The same with basketball. I played 26 years basketball in my life. When I decide to stop, I'm barely watching basketball.
I just saw a documentary about Ayrton Senna.
Ayrton Senna, yeah.
And how Williams was kind of part of his demise, right? The Williams team, the Williams car. And he was driving for Williams.
Among others. I mean, he did drive, I think.
He was, right. He had been with others, Lotus and others. And, but then when it was going to be it was his first year with Williams when he had the crash that killed him. I believe so.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes. Anyway,
be that as it may, I could go on about F1, but this is not an F1 podcast, although we would probably get more downloads if it was. So maybe we'll think about that for next time. Let's stay focused on REOR.
REOR20.
REOR20.
Yeah.
So let's start today by telling us what your company is, and the reason that maybe some of you haven't heard of REOR20 is you're kind of coming out of stealth mode. Is that correct?
The last year we are actually started hitting the market, but we are still small, and currently we are actually about to release our new website that will tell more. We did a lot, let's say, of work with different incubators, companies. So we won last year Lloyd's competition, Lloyd's of London, and we were in cohort 10. And afterwards, we won also the European Innovation Award. Before that, we won the European Space Agency Award. So people know us. But in terms of products, we just started coming out because we are a deep tech company. So it took us quite a long time to develop. And to be honest, we're still developing.
Tell me what you mean by deep tech.
So actually, I guess that your audience is not expecting to hear what I'm going to tell. But I mean, we are building, actually, we did build the first AI that understands physics. And actually, when we had the idea to do that, it was science fiction, meaning that there was no academic literature supporting that this is possible, So practically, the last 4 years, we're building something that we didn't have a lot of academic research to base on. But I think that we have to take it one step back. Before we start talking about our technology, it is important, I think, to understand why REOR exists in the first place. So I don't know if that's okay with you.
Please, please.
I mean, I will. At some point in my career, I found myself being an employee of a large reinsurance company with a focus on innovation, building cool stuff. There are no complaint. But at some point, I was exposed to the flood models that were used by the industry, not the specific, actually, of the company that I was working, but by coincidence, I was in a presentation seeing what they're doing. And having the computational fluid dynamics background, I got almost surprised to hear what the industry is using in order to take decisions for flood risk, to understand flood risk. I could understand why they're doing that, meaning the science and the scientific limitations that led to those kinds of models. But it was impossible for me to digest the fact that business was taking decisions on that information. So the whole idea was can we build a model that goes to the highest possible fidelity, highest possible accuracy, and doesn't need to consume the whole Amazon cloud in terms of computational power in order to calculate it once. So more or less, we started like this. I called my co-founder in the end. He was at MIT at the time. I said, another Greek, said, Christos, do you think that this is possible? He said, what the hell, man? I mean, we studied all our life to know that this is not possible. So
right.
And that's when we started discussing the idea. Actually, there were some discussions in the Massachusetts area, in the scientific community, about the possibility of AI to understand physics. I was crazy enough to quit my job, take my pension fund, take all my savings, start running with that. So
wow, that's entrepreneurial. I mean, that's entrepreneurism. That's you had the bug and the vision. Yes.
Yeah, entrepreneur is a polite word, let's say.
I'm trying to be nice to you here, Danny.
Yeah, exactly. And actually from that, starting all our problems, especially the first years of the venture, we didn't have a true understanding of how to build a business, despite the fact that I was in the industry for a long time. First-time entrepreneur, not really experience. I've seen others left and right, and very technology-driven without having in focus the product. That created a lot of difficulties. Thank God we found enough people to support us at the beginning, believing in the team predominantly and not believing in the market, because we didn't know how to attack the market at the beginning. It was interesting. We knew the power of the technology that we're building. We could understand very, very well. And by the way, very recently, we found publications from humongous companies talking about discussing if it is possible to model the physical world with AI. And we're 4 years ahead. Yay. That's why we're a deep tech company.
And you could just say yes, right?
Actually, we do.
So let's use that as a starting point to talk about specifically about the company. So we kind of have a little peek behind the curtain about what kind of crazy stuff's going on behind the curtain, but talk about what is it that you guys do and what's the product or service that you guys are going to be bringing to market?
So the whole idea is to provide to the industry, to the insurance industry, but of course, I mean, we have to take it a little bit wider. The governments are having the same problems, the risk owners are having the same problem, and we want to provide to all of them all the information that is missing, meaning that the flow is dynamic, it has depth, it has time. So buildings are for certain time under specific water, and it is not only the max that matters. It is the momentum of the water. How fast the water is hitting something is important. Also, having the buildings interacting with the water, which is something that most of the models are not doing. So practically, they're solving the Navier-Stokes equations that are governing the motion of water on bare earth, and then they are putting the buildings on top. And there are reasons. It's not that the people are not smart. The people know how to do high fidelity fluid dynamics. The problem is that if you want to provide that kind of detail at the resolution that it is meaningful at a wide scale, it is impossible to compute. So it is becoming the problem becomes so big that it is impossible to actually solve it. So actually, with our technology going to the product, we are bringing all this information. And now for the first time, we can do underwriting, for example, that is forward-looking. It is based on engineering and not on actuarial services. What do I mean with that? You have the water interacting with the building. So actually, you have the forces of the building. And you have all the risk characteristics of the building. So, for example, elevated entrance, you have an opening here, or whatever it is. So practically, when you model your scenarios or past events, you can take all that in account and say, the elevated entrance of that building matters, while on the other building doesn't matter because the water never going to be that high or that fast that can kick down the door. So practically, we are dealing with a problem, the underwriting problem, forward-looking. So you don't have to take data from another region or past event and try to extrapolate in order to calculate your vulnerability curves. We believe, and actually there is proof based on the results of the industry the last years, and especially under climate change, those are not holding anymore. So actually, you have to underwrite the specific property with a specific characteristic. So, best case scenario now, you have a risk selection methodology, meaning that a property is in or out of a specific flood zone, and then you either select to underwrite it or not, and then you take the risk characteristics and you are pushing the price up or down depending on the characteristics. So there is no interaction between the hazard and the vulnerability, and we are coupling that. We're bringing it in one place,
which makes more sense, right? I mean, because that's real. That's the real world.
Yes, and actually, we are doing that now for large commercials with a major U.S. insurer, and that are having that approach for other perils. For flood, that wasn't possible. So it is not that people don't understand that. It's that it was impossible, and we make it possible now. So that is the first point where we are going to attack. The other benefit that we're bringing is that a lot of the data that are inputs in all the simulations are having certain levels of uncertainty. And the nightmare of an underwriter is not give me a value, but give me the uncertainty of the value. Because if you give me a value and I don't know how much uncertainty there is around the value, I still am not able to sleep. Now, there is no way to quantify this uncertainty, because it is, you have to make choices, the infiltration. So let's say the drainage system is working or not working, or how much is working. Is it dry condition or is it wet condition? Is the levee going to hold or not? So all that are imposing uncertainties because you have to make very few choices and combine them and say, that is a 50-year event, that is a 100-year event, that is the 500-year event. Even the definition of the event, if you go out in the market, you have numerous different models because they are taking different statistical approaches to the definition of the event. So what we're bringing in the market is that, okay, you don't have to choose. We're going to run each and every combination. So you will not have this property is in or out the flood zone. You will have the full probability of probability curve of the specific property being in or out the flood zone and all the dynamics around it. And that is capturing also very fast events because, as you probably know, flash floods are an unknown. Utah is outside of the flood zones, but can you claim that there is no flood risk? Saudi Arabia had huge floods. It is, let's say, a similar situation as Utah. So actually, we can do all that.
So it's kind of rewriting what you're doing is you're rewriting the thinking and the methodology that's been in place for ever.
Yeah.
Right?
So, and that brings me to the main point. If I wanted to continue doing cool stuff that are variations of what the industry have built the past 200-300 years, I would have stayed at my last position. Mm-hmm. The reason why I left was because the vision that I had and my team is having is not possible to be developed within a large company. And there is a reason for that. I mean, large companies are having a steady business model. They have to run the business every day. They cannot go and put money on every crazy person that has an idea that can change the industry.
Right.
So our technology is transformation, is not another way of doing the same thing. We want to enable the industry to find the best solutions. At the extent of it, we will open up this capability to everybody and we'll let them build their own solutions. Banks for mortgages, governments for protection, because de-risking is a huge thing. Insurers, the people, and also the companies, they will have access to our technology. So we are starting from underwriting. As a good entrepreneur, we focus, but essentially we want to change the way that we're doing portfolio management, accumulation control, claims management, all that.
How does it? We're claims people, Lee and I, and we work for a claims company, claims provider. Tell us how this is. I mean, obviously, it's pertinent to claims as far as knowing that what type of claim might happen at a particular address. But tell us how it would affect claim management.
Do you want a visionary, provocative answer, or the one that they will come tomorrow and they will ask us for that service?
Let's start there.
So actually, we can help you triage the claims very, very fast, and even tell you with certain certainty, let's say, that don't look at it. There, it is definitely a fraud. There, it is definitely a claim. And take a big thing, a big part out of the pie.
Sure. I mean, here are the addresses that are true, that are real.
Yeah. So actually, especially if you have done the underwriting with our technology, so we have the risk characteristics, we will know, because we will be able. We are not even close to that. I hope that people will not come to me tomorrow and say, I want that. We will be there maybe in 1.5 to 2 years from now. But we will be able to run real time the event. So take the meteorological information and run it real time and see how it is progressing on the ground. Because one thing is like monitoring with the weather and know how much water is coming from above. Another thing is that you can actually see what that water means on the ground. So first loss estimation and triaging of claims, reducing the need of to send too many people on the ground. You will still need some, but
in an appropriate at an appropriate level, not at a random, this is my best guess level.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So actually, we will have the property, the address that you said. We will have the best case scenario. We will have the property characteristics. We say, this property went through that. There is no way that they didn't have that much water in. So,
and I would assume that most of this property data is available. The property data, not the flood data, not your secret sauce.
So actually, there is where we try to work with insurers directly. So that's why we are going into co-development agreements right now, but also data providers. There are a lot of companies that are trying to get all this information. So actually, and a lot of them, that they don't know what to do with this information. So practically, we're giving them a way to monetize their data. So people are, when I'm explaining about our engine, they start talking about, but what about the scenario suites? What about the input data? I said, I'm building one company. What you're describing are 10. So I will work with all the people that are having the other pieces of the puzzle in order to build that.
That's all amazing, great stuff. And Lee and I were just in London, and among other things, visiting with people and syndicates at Lloyd's. You just got a major validation from Lloyd's, and I'm not talking about the money. I'm talking about, this is Lloyd's Labs, right? I mean, it's one of the.
So actually, we went to Lloyd's. We applied for the Lloyd's Lab when we felt confident that in about 2 years we will have a scalable solution in terms of technology. Mm-hmm. And our proposal, and with that they accept us to participate, was like, okay, let's validate. We have a lot of validation from the scientific point of view. Let's validate it in terms of business, and let's start designing with the help of the syndicates solutions that are wanted by the market.
Right.
So, and that gave us a ticket to participate in cohort 10. The investment, as you said, is something that came much later anyway.
No, right. I mean, you were in their labs program first.
Yes.
And out of seeing, I assume that they really liked what they saw.
I hope so, because they gave us the award for the best innovation in Europe. So in InsurTech. So yeah, I think that they liked what they saw. We like a lot the experience. I think that is amazing. The learning curve we had there was unbelievable. It was
just share quickly what did you guys get out of that?
So actually, we got a lot of people with all the knowledge that we needed. So people that we could sit down together and say, tell me about this, tell me about that, tell me how you do that. What is keeping you up in the evening? What you would buy tomorrow? Is then designing stuff and showing them, is this appealing to you? Because as we said, we built transformative solutions, meaning that we had to expose them to things that they didn't know. And that is always a very, very tough battle. On top of that, one syndicate was kind enough to give us also claims data. So actually, we proved the value in terms of for insurance. So we proved that, for example, based on the portfolio data, that our model creates about 90% different risk view than the current methodologies.
That's a stunning number. I mean, that's stunning. That's almost complete, right? That's kind of to say what you're doing and what you have today is 90% wrong.
I said different. I don't.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry.
But that means that you can take decisions will guarantee different result. And we ran also some numbers in terms of loss ratios, which are extremely impressive, but I cannot share.
Okay. And at the bottom of this, of why is this all so important? Mm-hmm. Flood is as far as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, the number one catastrophe on Earth globally.
Yes, and it gets more and more unpredictable. The last 4 or 5 years are nobody could expect what happened in regions like Europe, for example, that we don't have the hurricanes. In US, the hurricane patterns are well studied. A lot of inland rainfalls, so the flood maps are based usually on riverine floods, a lot of catastrophes because of intense rainfall. And yeah, it is a very, very difficult peril to understand. And that's why we try to develop all that knowledge and convince people that they have to go the other way. Unfortunately, the experience of our clients is such that they are willing because it's not a good experience. So climate change open up the minds, because if something is working, why to change it?
I want to ask you about your potential customer and customer base. So I would think that it's not just property and casualty carriers who have flood-prone areas, but even governments like the United States that has, I don't know how big the NFIP book is, but it's probably one of the largest flood books in the world.
It is the largest, I think.
Okay, the largest flood book in the world. And the impact that something like this, because as we know, it's not an actuarially, or traditionally has not been actuarially sound book. They've done it as a service to their constituents. But somebody, an organization like NFIP would be very interested in running their, you would hope would be.
Yeah.
Right? Am I right there?
So actually, how we see the market for our technology is like there are three major segments, let's say 3.5 major segments that are sharing the flood risk. It is people and companies, which is like the most of it, governments, insurers, and banks. For our decision to start from insurance, for practical reasons, meaning that we try to work with governments. Actually, if you research in German our company, you will find an article in InsideIT.ch, which is the most prestigious IT website here in Switzerland, where they are talking about the work that we did for Lucerne City, where because exactly we had all those factors, and because exactly they gave us even more data, because they gave us also the drainage system, we could identify why they had a problem, why 2 out of the 3 times that the same rain event happened, they didn't have a problem, but the third one, they did have a problem. And also we tested their future infrastructure. So you don't need to build it and then see if it is working. So they gave us a future infrastructure, and actually we found out that they did a quite good job, the engineering company, where it could have been a little bit different, but not material. But they could see, and where is the new bottleneck? So what kind of event now is going to cause a problem with the new infrastructure? And we had a humongous success with them. They were very enthusiastic. But then we went into the political situation in Switzerland, like the city versus the canton and whatever, and that takes time. And for a startup, I cannot deal with the government cycles, budget cycles.
No, as we know, the government cycle makes the insurance cycle look fast.
Exactly.
Right.
On the other hand, if you go to the risk owners, starting, of course, from the large commercials, you have to convince people that they have a problem when they say, I have insurance for that. I don't know. I mean, so practically the sales effort is also humongous for a startup at our stage. So the obvious choice was insurance, which also happened to know quite well, because we have people in our board that are ex-executives of insurance companies. I was a manager in an insurance company. Our head of product was also. So we have a lot of knowledge of the topic. And also we know a lot of people in order to penetrate the market, at least to make the first presentation quite easily.
Right. And it's not to say, but you made your product really for the insurance industry, and not exclusively. And it has definitely other applications, but you're insurance guys. And that's a really interesting dynamic, InsurTech dynamic kind of thing to talk about. Is you don't usually get insurance guys who are tech guys who are creating InsurTech solutions always. A lot of times you get tech guys who come up with an insurance idea, and then you kind of backfill the insurance knowledge into the organization. But you already had it planted in your head, and you were kind of leading with that. So it was an organic fit.
I couldn't say it better. It was organically correct, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask me if I have an InsurTech, I will tell you, no, I have a deep technology company. I have a technology company. Because,
all right.
And let me add one dimension, because I think that it is very difficult, and potentially your audience is hearing about that for first time or second, third time. We managed to solve physics, so equations, a set of partial differential equations with the use of AI. That means that our AI understands mass conservation, momentum conservation, and the likes. Okay. Now, how many other physical processes are governed by differential equations? Wind, wildfire, options, because the black and soul
acts of nature.
Not only, all humans. Because option pricing is based on black and souls, and black and souls is a convection diffusion equation. So that is financial markets. So theoretically, and I'm not saying that we are going to do that, because flood is big and we need to make it for flood, and that will take time. And I think by that time, we can think about more. Theoretically, we can start attacking the one peril after the other, the one problem after the other. And that is not a topic of insurance, that topic of Microsoft, Google, IBM. They are talking about that. There was a recent publication from OpenAI where you are giving instructions and they are creating automatically the video. The AI is creating a video automatically. Very impressive. And they have one comment. The one thing that we don't, it is still a problem, is modeling AI with AI physics, the physical world. So actually they have glass that is breaking, it has liquid, and the liquid is spreading on the table, but it's very unnatural because it doesn't follow fluid dynamics principles. So, yeah, I mean, the last month, because the Y Combinator came out asking for companies that are doing that, I don't know, somehow it looks like that the world is catching up and we have it, we can solve it. And that's why I'm saying that, of course, insurance is our focus and our products, but the vision is much bigger.
So what's next for REOR?
REOR20. We are trying to build all the necessary co-development partnerships in order to be able to build the product at scale the moment. So practically we try to align the time that we estimate we need to bring the technology in productive state and the time that we need to build a product at scale. So we are entering partnerships doing that, to do that. So we pitch to them, okay, this is a technology, this is a capability. We want to understand how you are going to get to use it best, let's say. What is your wish? Let's educate each other and try to build the next generation of insurance together. And we're having good traction. We have a couple of companies that are very, very interested. And at the same time, as I told you, we are with our classical fluid dynamics engine, which we had to build from scratch, because in order to train the AI, we needed to have the fluid dynamics engine. And the fluid dynamics engine, we needed to control, because we are not teaching our AI the results, but we're teaching components of the mathematics. So, and that is the unique innovation. And that's why we are not filing for a patent, because it would tell people they will be able to find ways. There are a lot of smart people out there that will have an aha moment and they will try. They will catch up much faster. So practically, in order to build to train our AI, we had to build the fluid dynamics engine, and the fluid dynamics engine is doing what the AI is going to do. So practically, we use that in order to do already projects for commercial insurance, where actually what we're doing is the following. We are analyzing all the forces on the building or the site, might be a complex of buildings or open space or whatever. We're analyzing all the forces. We're finding all the weaknesses. We are showing the causality, meaning where the water is going to come from, how fast it's going to come. And then we design on the fly some mitigation measures to de-risk, and then rerun it in order to show how much better it is if you have this mitigation. But when we are talking about mitigation, we're not talking about large engineering construction things, but things that you can do on premise, meaning put an inflatable wall there or seal that window, things as simple as that, things that you can do within a couple of days. And people really, really, really like it. So risk engineers are loving it, of course, because it's the engineering way. And underwriters can sleep a little bit more.
How are actuaries responding to it?
We haven't dealt with actuaries. I would say that, I would need the actuaries to do all the all of the econometrics on the multitude of simulations that will run for the specific building. Not from history, but forward-looking. So actually, we will need, if we have, and we will find smart actuaries to do all that work. Statistics on the actual building and not on the historic on the experience.
You've been very generous with us today to give us the time and the interview. It's great to have you. And I know you're in Zurich today, right? And so it's not early. But I want to ask you one last question, and that is, in the world today, and I'm a great example of a dum-dum who, is caught up in what's AI, what can AI do, and ChatGPT, et cetera, and it's all very cool. But you're kind of in the mix at the front, and just share some thoughts, if you would, in the minute we have left, about what's it like to be at the forefront of something that many people are now considering, to be an enormous game changer. Your product, as well as other products, this world we're moving into.
Up to now, very frustrating, meaning that trying to tell people something that they haven't seen before, it is a very difficult conversation. Meaning everybody wants to hear, or everybody likes the story. Not a lot will take the leap and join forces. Saying that, I would like to have the same question in 6 months from now, because after good 4 years, we're seeing the people changing towards those kind of solutions. And ChatGPT helped. We have nothing to do with what ChatGPT is doing. Don't get me wrong. It's a total different type of AI. And you will not find literature about what we're doing, except if we write it. Or actually, you might find some literature, but for other problems. So now, especially with the latest publications that I mentioned from the big companies, people started getting really intrigued. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. By nature, I'm not a person that complains too much. It is natural to be defensive because you're running your everyday business. Because someone is, as I said many times, crazy, you're not going to change because potentially this person tells you the truth. We have to convince the people that we're telling the truth. And now we started doing that. And the support that is coming from efforts like ChatGPT or OpenAI in general are making it easier for people to want to know more.
Right.
It's not an easy battle.
No, and I mean, it's like, I think many inventors, innovators, great mind that we've heard of through history, right? This is another one of those times to be at the front of it, to get people to understand and to believe is, when you tell people that that you've reinvented the wheel, it's hard for normal. I'm not going to call myself normal, but generally low IQ people like myself to wrap your arms around it. And I'm so it's thrilling to have you here. It's thrilling to have you with us and to hear about your company and what you're doing. And I know that you're still a small number of people, but I have a feeling it won't be long until when we call you back for the next episode of having you on, we'll get pushed off to somebody in the marketing department. I'm sorry, Danny doesn't have time for you guys anymore.
I will always have time for Europe.
You have to talk to the director of business development. So I hope that happens for your own sake. I hope it happens soon. And how exciting. And also, real quickly, a shout out to Astrid.
Oh, yes.
Who connected us.
Yes, during that event at ITC, yes.
That's right. Astrid Mahal Bahari.
Yeah.
Who seemingly knows everybody.
Yes, and she's great. She's
one
great. Of the people that immediately got it. I was so impressed.
Right. She's one of the people that explained it to me. So that's her role. So listen, thank you. We're gonna let you go and go to sleep. What time is it in Zurich?
9 p.m.
Oh, it's early.
It's early. It's
okay. Dinner time. Okay. Well, listen. Thank you very much, and I'm hoping that in the not too distant future we can have you back on to talk about some of the ways that you're advancing this.
That would be fantastic. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for the trust to have me here, and looking forward to talk to you again soon.
You got it, soon. Bye now. big thank you goes out to Danny, whose last name I can't pronounce because he has a Greek last name. And of course, to our producers and to Lee Boyd for not being here. I don't know what if his excuse was a good one or not, but he will be here next time. And most especially, a big thanks to you all for listening and being part. So until next time, I'll say goodbye, everybody.